Coming up today, we're planting garlic for spring harvest and we're pre-soaking them. Find out why we do that. And tips on how to ripen your tomatoes that are green indoors. All that and more coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is sponsored in part by, for all your non-GMO, organic, and heirloom vegetable, flowers, and herb seeds, visit dollarseed.com. Sioux Growing Supply, located in Wausau, Wisconsin, focusing on certified leaf compost, an excellent amendment for poor soil, retains moisture and adds nutrients, which equals less watering. Available in labor saver pre-filled trays and pots, bag and bulk. Visit SiouxCompost.com. Organic fertilizer for the health-conscious organic home gardener. Family owned and operated. Visit thewiveggardeners.com. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joey Baird. Today we're planting garlic, and there's a couple of techniques on planting garlic so you can get the best harvest. Now you're wanting to plant this 3 to 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks before your first hard freeze, before the ground freezes, and then you're going to harvest it based on the variety late May, mid-June to late June. So keep in mind where you plant it, that bed's going to be not going to be able to be used for a very long period of time. Now we've got 3 different varieties. We've got a German hardy. We've got our variety that we purchased last year and we're replanting this year, which is a Spanish Roja garlic, as well as a Georgia Crystal garlic. Now, all of these were purchased from a local provider here in southeast Wisconsin. Many of you where you live have a provider that does garlic like this that you can find online. Now, if you haven't purchased your garlic yet, you might have to buy online from farther away because a lot of these varieties are being bought up real quick so people can plant. So what you're wanting to do is the key to a large garlic bulb, this is one that we grew last year, is large garlic cloves. Now, when you bust this open, you're going to have between 4 and 12 cloves. And here's some that I opened up prior here. These are medium-sized cloves compared to the ones that I picked to plant. Now, some of these really thin ones here, we're just going to use that in the kitchen. That's an acceptable one. It's on the smaller size. So you want to keep in mind, the larger clove that you can get, the larger bulb you're going to end up with at the end of the growing season come next year. Now, if you do pop them open and you take this skin off, that's okay. You just want to make sure you plant them relatively soon. There's a large one there. So we're pre-soaking these in Moo-Poo tea, and these are the little tea bags Moo-Poo tea comes in. You use these up about 5 times, 1 to 3 days, pre-soaking or stewing for 1 to 5 gallons. You don't have to have any stones, air stones or anything. You just throw this in the bucket, let it soak, and it comes out. And every brew you do gets a little lighter, but the nutrients is still there because it's the manure from antibacterial and hormone-free, GMO-free fed cattle, very organically raised. And that's why gardeners all over the world rave about how wonderful this is for your vegetables, pre-soaking seeds, as well as feeding the microbial life in the soil, as well as spraying on your plants. This is the only soil conditioner Moo-Poo tea that you can spray that's not going to burn your foliage, as well as it does do very well on your roses if you're a rose grower. So we've had these soaking for about 24 hours now. We're planting 42 in the large garden here. We're going to plant some in the small garden as well as the sister-in-law's garden. Now, if you don't want to save or you don't care what variety you're saving, then you don't have to mark them. But we're going to take markers, row markers here, or window blinds that we've turned into row markers, and we're going to mark over there. Now, if you want to know more details on the precise, all the details that goes into garlic, we're going to talk about a lot of them here. But you can find the link in the show notes below for our digital magazine, our fall digital magazine, where we write in very detailed instructions on how to grow and maintain and harvest the best garlic you've ever grown in your garden. So let's get the mason jars over there and we'll start planting. You don't have to pre-soak them in mason jars, but it just works very, very nice for us. All right, so we've prepped these beds multiple weeks ago, and for one very important reason. A lot of gardens, our gardens not excluded, we have weeds. So we wanted to work this soil, put some certified leaf compost in it from SueCompost.com, and then let these beds set. We top dressed them, or we fed the soil with Moo Tea a couple of weeks ago, and we're seeing what weeds emerge, because you're always going to have weed seeds. So we've got a couple of weeds here, and we want to purge this bed as well as this bed here with where our garlic's going to go, to try to get as many weeds out of it as possible. So now that we've done that, the soil is fairly dry. Yeah, there's some moisture there, but we will water these in. So the technique to planting garlic is fairly simple. This row here is approximately 18 inches wide, so we're going to do 2 separate rows here, and it's about 9.5 foot long. So you're going to put a garlic clove about every foot. So you'll have a foot from every clove, and then across here there'll be a foot, because you want to keep in mind that the end result, these plants get relatively good size. So it really makes no difference what variety that we're going to plant here, but I do kind of want to keep these in check so I know what variety is what, so when we do save them, we know what we got. So planting garlic here, I'm just going to drain off the Moo Tea where we're going to plant. It's not going to hurt anything. So these have been pre-soaking for, like I said, 24 hours or so. There's a right way and a wrong way to plant garlic. Wrong way is upside down. You want to keep in mind that as in your clove, the bottom is where your clove is, where the roots were at. That's on your bulb. That's where you want it to go down. You want to see the little, where you see roots soon to be forming. That's the part you want to put in the ground. Now you can plant this in any way. You can just push it in the ground, or you can make a little row here. But the ideal is that you want to get them planted before the ground freezes, and you want to go about 1.5 inches to 2 inches deep. No deeper than that, because it'll take a lot of strength to come out of the ground. You want to get them planted prior to the freeze, about 4 to 6 weeks, so you can get really good root establishment, and that's the key to this pre-soaking. Now you can pre-soak with water, that's perfectly fine, but if you have municipal water, you want to pull that water out of the faucet, let it sit for 24 hours to evaporate the chlorine that's in the water, because that's not good for us or for plants, for seeds, because that is a chemical and it's not good for the seeds. And then you want good root establishment. You don't want a lot of top growth, or any at all if you can help it, because then as the spring breaks, the thaw that happens, then since the roots are established, these garlics will get they'll start popping through the soil as soon as the warmth happens in the spring. So that's the key to all of this. So I'm wanting to go another foot. So I'm going to get this row planted, all done, and we'll see where we're at with these others. And it doesn't matter what variety, they all get planted the same. All right, so I've got this bed planted. We did about 1.5 rows of the variety that we saved, which was the Spanish Roja, and we did about 7 cloves of the Georgia Crystal. Now, we'll just move over to this bed here, and you can see how loose this is, and we'll fluff it again. But we'll get 3 rows in here. Now, people will say, well, you're going to mulch your garlic or not mulch your garlic. Last year we didn't mulch our garlic. We did the same procedure as you just seen, planting it earlier, 3 to 6 weeks before the ground freezes. It didn't have no top growth at the time of the freeze. It was one of the coldest winters, if you recall, on record. And we had phenomenal garlic to harvest in June this past year. So we're not going to mulch it. Now, if you do choose to mulch it, you want to do your research and find out in your particular growing area if it's necessary to mulch garlic or not. You can use leaves or straw. And also if garlic can grow successful in your area. Farther south, people have more of a difficult time growing garlic because of the coldness or the number of cold hours garlic needs. If you are one of those who want to grow garlic and you're farther south in the United States, You can check out our fall digital quarterly magazine. It's in the show notes below. It's free for viewing online as well as downloading, where we interview Carolyn Binder from Cowlick Cottage Farms. She's in Florida, and she's very successful at growing garlic in a very warm climate such as Florida. So that'll be something you can read up on, some of the tips that she offers on how you can be a successful garlic grower if you're farther south in the United States. So I'm going to finish getting this planted, and it's that easy on how to plant garlic and how to have a successful garlic planting so you can have a successful garlic harvest in the spring. And there's more techniques about it, and that's all in the article in our digital magazine as well. So we're in the back bed here and we're cleaning it out. It had corn, it had lettuce. It was a okay success. And if you remember on a couple of episodes ago, going straight to the point, we harvested lettuce seeds from the giant lettuce plants that were sitting here. Well, obviously some of them had already dropped the seeds, and we're cleaning this bed out. And here's one of the things: you need to understand what the plants look like as seedlings, because otherwise, if I didn't know what lettuce plants look like as seedlings, I would have just flipped this bed over and went on and did another job in the garden. But we have a number of little lettuce plants here that are starting to come up because of the seeds that have fallen. So what I've done is I've got a little bit of the bed prepped here. Now we're not adding no nutrients. We're just flip the soil over, clean the roots and the weeds out, and we're prepping it for spring. So what we're going to do is just take and dig out these lettuce plants here, and we're going to move them over here. Not really space them any specific distance, just dropping them in. And if you can get as much as the roots as you can here, that's best. Move that one. We'll put that one there. That's the best of all of them so far. Here's another one. Plant that there. We'll come in and water them. But just don't flip over the soil and just go on your way. Take what the garden's giving you back, which is some lettuce plants that's already seedlings that we can just move over here. In about 40 to 60 days we'll have lettuce, or if it's going to get really bitterly cold and freeze, we can harvest whatever we have available. And that's something that the garden gave to us, that we didn't plant, that it naturally reoccurred from natural seeding from the lettuce plants we let go to seed.
So I have been chopping up leeks for freezing, and I noticed that my knife is not very sharp. It needs to be sharpened. So, and they say that you're most likely to cut yourself with a dull knife than a sharp knife because you're working harder and there's more chance of slipping and things like that. So I have this sharpener here, and there's actually two ways you can sharpen. You can simply use a sharpener and you just run the blade across, and this is just a cheap sharpener, but we found it works really well, and I bought it from a local bath home bed supply store. You can also sharpen on the bottom of a ceramic cup, something like a coffee mug, and you just, since it's a unfinished stone, usually you can just rub the bottom, or the kind of the bottom side of your knife along there, and that'll sharpen it as well. I haven't tried that, but I did see that tip as well. So something to think about. Think about how sharp your knives are when you're doing a lot of chopping, when canning and preserving, because if you have an unsharp knife, it's going to make things a little bit more difficult for you.
So we're in the prep room where we bring produce in after we harvest it, whether it's mature like the pumpkin here, or let the beans dry that we are shelling when we have time. But our main focus right now is the tomatoes. As the nights get colder and the possibility of frost or freezing presents itself, you can do one or two things. You can cover your tomatoes with a cloth during the nighttime hours to protect it from the frost or potential freezing. If that's not manageable for you because you have such a large crop, you can harvest your tomatoes while they're still green and bring them indoors, and they will ripen by following some techniques that you can find online. One being, just simply set them on a table like we have here, away from direct sunlight. You don't want to put them in the windowsill, because what happens is the sun will hit the tomato and make the skin very, very tough as it ripens, and that's just not pleasant to eat a very tough skin tomato. You can also take and wrap these in newspaper and place them in a cardboard box or in a paper sack. They will emit a gas called ethylene, which is a natural gas that will help them ripen. Commercial growers do this quite frequently in order to get produce to ripen at a designated period of time during the seasons. But what we've done, we've just brought them in, sat them on the table. 55 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit is adequate temperature for this. And within a week, your tomatoes have ripened. So don't be discouraged if frost or freeze is in your forecast. Bring those green tomatoes in, maximize what you have on the vine. They will ripen indoors. They may not be as sweet as those you have ripened on the vine prior to this time, but at least you can salvage them. Thanks for watching. Join us again next time for more organic gardening and food preservation. I'm Joy Baird, and this has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewiveggardener.com.